What a glorious day today is. I'm very excited about today's conversation. I'm very excited because I have some tea to share with y'all. I have some thoughts to share with y'all. And we're going to be painting this jacket. So this will be available in my store. It's still in progress. Okay, it's still in progress. It's not done. But I'll be painting this jacket. So this is what it's looking like so far. And yeah, so I'll be working on this jacket today. And oh, I didn't even show you the sleeves. So like the sleeves have some paint and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna be painting this jacket and then talking about the patriarchy, talking about the sexual objectification of women artists and creators in what I like to call the OnlyFans era. So a lot to talk about. I have an interesting story to share with y'all that actually served as the impetus for me to even decide to make today's subject the subject of today's video. So yeah, but before we get into it, I do want to one, like some Palo Santo, share an intention, and then also I'd like to read something from my book as well that I think, oh sorry, there's just so much action going on outside of my window. Okay, I want to share something from my book, Force of Nature, which also let me go ahead and like just put the link where you can get my art, fashion, what else, in my book. But yeah, like a lot of thoughts today because I don't know, the OnlyFans society has some men acting crazy, and I am going to share something ridiculous that happened this weekend. Hi Diplomatic Cigar says, this jacket looks very nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. I agree. I'm excited. So for those of y'all who are just joining, hi, my name is Ademi Pesu, and I'm an artist and fashion designer and author, and I'll be painting this jacket. And yeah, so you can also see some stuff that I've painted in the background as well. But let's just start with the Palo Santo, and then I'll be able to really get into today's topic. Like I even have some stuff that I wrote in my notebook when I was just kind of like reflecting, and I'm gonna share some of that as well. But yeah, I'm feeling very impassioned today, so let me just go ahead, clear out ward off any negative energy that wants to come into today's chat, because yeah, like I'm probably, I don't know if I'll say things that will upset people, but you know, I feel like when it comes to the topics of like sexism and the patriarchy and the male gaze and all of that, people get a little bit testy. So I'm not gonna delay too much before I get into it. Diplomatic Cigar says, what's the story that happened? Oh, I'm about to say, but I want to set an intention and read something from my book, and then I'm gonna share it because y'all are probably also going to be upset on my behalf. Hi Vicky, welcome. I hope you subscribe. I go live not every weekday anymore, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays from my art studio at 3 p.m. So today's intention is just honoring the decolonized divine feminine. That is the intention for today. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. And I just pray that God's presence, as usual, will be in today's live. And I also pray that it will be an inspirational and uplifting live for a woman who do need to hear this. So yeah, but there's a part of my author's note that I think will serve as a really good intro into today's video. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and read it. My book is Force of Nature by Ademi Pesu. If you Google that, you can find it at your local bookstores, Amazon, Waterstones, Booktopia, anywhere books are sold, honestly. So on page 12, I wrote, as such, it is a long-standing frustration of mine that African women globally are so often policed. Be it the way we wear our hair, or the way we choose to dress, or even the ways we mourn and cry or express our feelings. African women are often forced to shrink ourselves for the comfort of others. African women often lean into a narrative of self-sacrifice because that is what we are taught. We are taught to cater to the needs of our parents before our own. We are taught to uplift our husbands and our children, even if it means burying ourselves prematurely. We are taught to view a life of second-class citizenship as one that is expected, not to be challenged. African women have built the backbones of society on the African continent, and it was our forced labor that catapulted Western societies to their supposed greatness. It is our wit and our wisdom that act as a sage and guide even outside of matriarchal structures. We are shoulders to cry on and bosoms to suck, but seldom are we given a listening ear. We are groomed to view happiness as a luxury instead of our God-given right. But I am writing this lyrical manifesto as an ode to who we are in our entirety. We deserve happiness, and we deserve the freedom to define that happiness for ourselves. So, yes, I felt like that was just like a good foundation to start with. Hi, Boma, welcome. Okay, so let me share the story of what happened that had me so worked up that I was like, yeah, I want to talk about the patriarchy, I want to talk about the male gaze and all of that. So I want to say like a month ago, I went out for my birthday, and actually, let me decide, do I want to like paint and say this, or let me just say it and then I'll start painting. Okay, so I went out for my birthday, and we went to like a house music type of club situation. It was really fun. Our friend was the DJ, and he had a really good set. So we were kind of in like the VIP area, my sister and I. And so we were just vibing, right? And some guy comes up to me, and he's like trying to flirt. I was trying to diffuse it because I was not interested. And I was just like, you know what, whatever, like, let me be nice. Mistake number one. And so, you know, he's like, I just want to spend money on you, this, and this. And I'm just like, you know what? You know where you can direct those funds that you so desperately want to spend on me? How about you buy my artwork? I'm an artist. I own a business. You can just support my business, support a small business, support a woman-owned business, you know? And he was like, yeah, sure, let me buy your artwork. And I'm like, yeah, you should. So he buys like the smallest print, like a 12 by 16 framed print, which y'all should do as well. Y'all should buy a print. And he buys a print, and that's that. But then, while he's like still trying to mac and failing because I'm not interested, but at least I did make a sale, his fiance comes up, and I'm like, oh, you have a fiance. That's very interesting. Tisk, tisk, tisk. And so I'm talking to the fiance. I'm like, yeah, you know, I make artwork about divine feminine energy. And she was not having it because she's mad at me because her fiance was talking to me. And I'm like, you know what? That's none of my business, but I do hope y'all enjoy my artwork. I think that it will raise the vibration of your home. So that is like the foundation of the story. So fast forward to this weekend, which is a month after I made this sale, to what I'm thinking is, oh wow, you know, this could be someone who maybe they want to become a collector, or maybe they want to keep buying my artwork, whatever. And so every now and then this person will like message my company Instagram, and I'm like, oh, I always redirect the conversation back to like my art, because I'm like, I'm a professional person, and I'm like, you know, I hope that you enjoy the artwork, or I hope this and that. Why does this person message me out of the blue, I want to say on Saturday or Sunday, it would be even worse if it was the Lord's Day, and says, I quote, I had to take a screenshot because I was like simultaneously pissed and shocked, and then I was also like, you know what, I want to talk about this because I think this is a symptom of a larger issue that we're seeing in society. But he says, can I send you $400 to see you in a thong? And I was in disbelief. I was just like, this is sexual harassment, like virtually. But it's become so normalized, like I think, and this is why I keep on bringing up like the OnlyFans society. It's not funny, Diplomatic Cigar. It is not funny. Like, imagine if somebody said that to your sister. I don't know if you have a sister, but imagine if someone just randomly messaged your sister and said, can I pay you $400 to see you in a thong? Or imagine if somebody said that to your mom or to your aunt or a woman in your life that you care about. Like, it's not cool. And I think that, like, even the laughter, like, it is emblematic of a deeper issue in society. Like, we see men casually support men like Andrew Tate, or we see men casually, like, I mean, look at who the president of the United States is. Like, we have a president who is on record saying, you just grab woman by the pum pum, you know, and like, he's still president. We have someone like Brett Kavanaugh on our Supreme Court who was accused by more than one woman of sexual assault and rape. And it's just like, I think it all trickles down into these interpersonal relations that we have, like, between the genders. Diplomatic Cigar says that's just wild. It is very wild. And so I said, when he said, can I send you $400 to see you on a thong? To my business page, mind you. I don't have a personal Instagram. I just have an Instagram where I share my art, I share pictures of my art shows, and like, it's pretty much that. Like, it's like, really, you kind of have to just engage with my art on that channel or on that page. And so I said no, N-O. And then I said, that's insulting. I don't know what would give you the impression that that was okay. And then I blocked him. I love blocking. I will block at the first sign of disrespect, because I do think that, especially as women, especially as women leaders, powerful women, whatever, like, if you have any type of, if you have something to lose, you have something to protect, I think you have to have a very low tolerance for disrespect, and you have to have a low tolerance for misogyny, because people will test you. Like, read some Robert Greene and learn about human psychology, but yeah, people will test you. They'll like kind of nick and pick and see, can I get away with, you know, saying out of pocket stuff to this woman? And the more you kind of say, yeah, no, it's not that big of a deal, I don't want to come off as da-da-da-da-da, the more that they will try it. Okay, so hold on, I can't even see what you said, Diplomatic Cigar. Let me pull it up on my laptop. He said his mother didn't beat him growing up. Listen. He said you should have sent the screenshot to his fiance. His fiance gave me one of those vibes of women who get mad at the woman when their man is the Casanova. Like, they get mad at the woman that the man is like swiveling his neck to look at when they're walking, but you should just be mad at the man because that's your man. Erkin says Cardi B. Ooh, that, I don't, I feel like actually that's a good, well, I don't know why you brought her into this conversation. She's actually my birthday twin. I know, it's so random. But I do think that, yeah, like, they call it like coochie rap. But like, I do think like the rappers, the baby mamas, the this and this, I do think it like trickles into how, as a broader society, especially on the internet and in virtual spaces and these virtual environments that we navigate as women artists, I do think all of that media representation trickles into this interpersonal interactions that we have where men just view women as sex objects. So I actually wrote some notes, but I'm also going to start painting because I have so much to say on this topic that I'm just like, yeah. But basically, I wrote down that Erkin says, Cardi B look like you are more original. I'm not exactly understanding, but I guess you're complimenting me. But Diplomatic Cigar says, it's a very sad society, so diluted. It is. So I just wrote like a stream of consciousness, and then I'm going to like structure it a bit and then also paint. But basically I said, okay, today I'm going to be talking about the patriarchy and navigating it as a woman artist. And then I also want to talk about like tropes like the manic pixie girl trope, which this is a trope that we see mostly in film and literature. If you read like Judith Butler and stuff like that, and like intellectual discourse on like gender and film and art and society, I do think that this will resonate with you, the whole like conversation about the manic pixie girl trope. I'm also going to talk about the sexual objectification of women creators and artists online, even when that's not what we're putting out. Like I don't know about me, globally published author, business owner, is giving, can I send you $400 to see you in a thong? Like I never put out sexual content on the internet, so I don't know like why that would be sent to me. However, I think about like when Kamala Harris was running and people still sexually objectified her. People still brought up her romantic past, and this is the VP of the United States. So I don't think like nowadays, or I don't think it's ever, but nowadays more so than ever, I do think that like you can accomplish so much as a woman and present yourself in the most elegant and regal way that you can, and it will still not deter sickos from sexually objectifying you. So definitely gonna talk about that. Hi Avni. Hi, you said hi Dara, do you remember me? I think so. I think I do. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. So I'm just kind of going over like all of the things I want to talk about. But I'm also going to be talking about the effect of the OnlyFans culture on women artists, because it's positioned, for a lot of men, it's positioned anything that women do online as sex work or as an expression of our femininity for the male gaze or for male pleasure or for male entertainment, when that is not why, well, at least it's not why I create. Like I create because this is a calling upon my life and because there's people I want to inspire. And so, yeah. But also okay, yeah, that was the first stream of consciousness. And then I also wanted to like drive in the point that our divine feminine revolution is ignited through our sovereign creative expression and a decolonization and reclamation of sacral energy and a deprioritization of the male gaze and our feminine expression. And also just a case for using art as a subversive tool in the patriarchy. And yeah, just basically saying me sharing my art and sharing myself online is not an invitation for nasty sexual advances. Okay, so let me check into the chat. I know that was a lot. Like that was just like a lot to put out there, but I'm telling y'all, when that happened, I was just like, are you kidding me right now? But it also made me think about things that like I've experienced in the past. Like I've literally left a corporate job because a VP was trying to groom me and like was engaging in predatory sexual harassment. And it's just like, damn, is it a crime to look good? Like you being an attractive woman, it's like all of a sudden you have to now, like if you're conventionally attractive to somebody or whatever, or men in power, it's like you are now responsible for their inability to control their sexual urges when that shouldn't be the case. So yikes. But Diplomatic Cigar says, I'm laughing at the 400 though. Not a nice experience, but 400 is wild for a business owner. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? Buy a single brush. Yeah, I was just like, it was just so insulting for so many reasons. Like $400, you could spend that at my favorite steak restaurant. Like, are you kidding me? But oh, okay. Avni Sharma says, your paintings look so pretty. Thank you. I'm the one who explained that if there would be only one watching, you're still going to do your best. And also, you are not able to do live on Friday because you had a shoot. Yes, I remember you. I remember you. And yes, I'm gonna always, also, guys, don't laugh at my like janky palette for today because I don't know why. I think it's because my regular palette has so much dried paint on it. It's been affecting the texture of the paint. So I was just like on a time crunch and I wanted to find something that didn't already have paint on it and see if maybe that would make a difference. So I went into the kitchen and found this. But yeah, girl, I don't care who's watching. I have thoughts and I'm gonna say them. So I'm happy to have you here. But yeah, like, I don't know. I do think, let me start with the whole OnlyFans culture and why I think, let's start there. And then also just like the media representation of women. And then also, like, even, I don't know how often y'all are on TikTok, but I'm taking a break from TikTok. And I think why. Amni Sharma says you should clean your palette. I know. I think I'm going to get, because it's a plastic one, and I had tried cleaning it the ways that they said online, and it didn't work. So I was just like, oh, whatever. Like, I'll clean it later. I'll just get a new one. But I'm going to just get a glass palette because those are much easier to clean than the plastic ones. Like, yeah, I don't know what's up with the plastic palettes. They're not a vibe for me, but it is what it is. But yeah, anyway, so I think that, like, why I bring up TikTok is before I took a break, I started noticing something very odd. Well, one, I felt like a lot of the conversations on TikTok were kind of silly. Ami Sharma says, yeah, a glass palette would be amazing. I think so. Yeah, I think just having a glass one, that way I can use one of those glass scrapers to remove the paint. Whereas, like, when I tried to use a scraper on my plastic one, I don't know, it just was not working. And so I got frustrated and I was just like, okay, well, let me just use it until I can't use it anymore, and then I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But it's lasted quite some time, I'd say. But oh, okay, so I'll call you only Avni. Thanks for the clarification. But yeah, I bring up TikTok because literally you'll be scrolling and then you'll see an ad and it's just like a naked woman, or like a woman with just her undergarments, and then showing like, buy this pair of jeans, but it's like, do you have to be in a bra and panties to show it? And this is not coming for the woman. Like, I'm not like slut shaming or anything like that, but I think the effect this now has is that it desensitizes men online, and so they start thinking, oh, subconsciously, woman online, naked, all women online for my sexual gratification. Like, you know, and so it just creates this weird thing where even if you are a woman artist or woman creative professional and you're sharing your work online, you just end up getting reduced to a sexual object. Like, I've literally had this even when I go live. And I mean, I don't mind when men call me pretty or things like that, but like, there's a way you can respectfully compliment people. So Diplomatic Cigar says, I've got a new idea. Maybe you should create an OnlyFans account and post your art there, but locked out so that people have to subscribe and pay to see more art. Yeah, I don't even think I want OnlyFans and my name even together. I have a bill in my honor, okay? Like, I may go into politics one day. I don't even want to be associated with that world at all, in the slightest. And I remember, like, even in high school, so story time again. I remember in high school, I was like very ambitious, of course. Like, you know, I always had my eyes set on the Ivy League track and all of that, and did it. But yeah, like, I was just like, I want to get a full ride to my dream school. That's what I was focused on. And oh, Avni says, what am I painting? I'm painting a jacket that I'll be selling this. And so it's still in progress. But yeah, I'm just painting it right now and going over some areas, and yeah, it's like more of an abstract look that I'm going for. But one of my most popular paintings that always gets like thousands of views on Pinterest, it's called Dancing to the Rhythm of Expansion, and I kind of wanted to adopt that style on some of my wearable art pieces. But yeah, I remember in high school there was this girl called Demi, and my name's Odemi, so they would be like, oh, the two Demis, even though my name is Demi, but you know how it is. And Demi, the other girl, had a huge rack. Let's just put it that way. And I had a large bum. So they'd be like, oh, Demi with the big boobs and Demi with the big butt. And I always found this so irritating because I was like president of all these clubs in high school. I'm always hearing my name like announced on the speaker, like, oh, Demi did. I had the highest SAT score in my graduating class and got like a countywide award for that. Highest SAT score. And still, it was always, oh, the Demi with the big butt, you know? And I just feel like it's gotten worse. Like, I feel like society has not really overcome this idea that women can exist as more than objects for the male gaze. And I think what has exacerbated that phenomenon is, like I said, OnlyFans society, or the OnlyFans effect on society. And then also, I think the media representation of women, that, like, you know, women right now on the internet are inundated with a lot of interesting messaging that says, oh, like, your purpose is to serve a man. And your purpose is to chop stuffing and bake. And I like to bake. Like, the thing is, I'm all about divine feminine energy, right? But, like, it doesn't really have much to do with servitude to the patriarchy. It has everything to do with me expressing my divinity as a woman and honoring my God-given talents as a woman. So, yeah. Diplomatic Cigar says, yeah, it's smushing the brains of men. It is. Like, I think, like, all of that, like, am I allowed to say this word on YouTube? PORN? All of that, it just, ugh, yuck. Just very icky. Like, it has an adverse effect. But I think that, like, the messaging, a lot of the messaging pushed at women right now tells women that our highest calling is bagging a rich man, which is also not that hard to date well-off men. Like, these are not things that require that much effort. You know what I'm saying? Well, at least to me, they don't require that much effort. I feel like I want to see more women, and I'm not saying, oh, we need to have every woman become like a software engineer or this and this. Like, I mean, I like to paint, and I like to paint clothing, and I like to sew, and I like to do, you know, what society would view as the feminine arts. I'm not saying that women have to like do certain things to be taken seriously. I think that what I really am saying is just, it's more so just a critique of a society that has normalized the objectification and the reduction of women's value. And so I think how this affects women artists in particular is that because of the nature of our jobs, like, we have to, I mean, like, when I do art shows in person and things like that, I can't tell you guys how often, you know, there will be like sexual advances and things like that, and I have to gracefully swerve it, and it's just like, dang, like, I can't crash out because I have to be professional. But I'm just like, it does get annoying. It really does. Or another one will be like, men will, you know, a lot of artists, I'm sure, go through this, a lot of women artists. Like, I know Thames, the Nigerian singer, has kind of talked about this and why she would start wearing baggy clothing to go record, or how nobody wanted to work with her to produce her stuff. So she had to learn to produce because there were always like ulterior motives. But there will always be these things where it's like a man will pretend like he wants to buy your art just to get in contact with you, and then boom, there comes the real intention. They're trying to sleep with you. And it's just like, just say that, you know, and let me reject you. Just say, hey, I'm trying to smash so I could say no thank you. But no, it's always, oh, I want to buy art, I want to buy art. And then the real intention comes out. Avni says, I feel sad for you, dear, as no one is here and you are giving your best and also applying your extra effort. You don't need to feel sad for me, Avni. I think this is more so just me, like, this is more so for me than anything. I'm already successful in real life. So me coming on here and just sharing my thoughts on the internet, it's for fun. And I think what comes of it is what comes of it. But it doesn't really have an effect on like anything I have going on in real life, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that was like shade or not, but you don't need to feel sad for me. You don't need to feel sad for me at all. Yeah, that's all I will say. This is more so like a way for me to share some of the behind the scenes of my process. I'll post a replay. Whoever comes across for it, or whoever comes across it, yay. If not, it doesn't really affect what I've got going on. Akil says, hey there, baddie. Hello. Hi, Akil. I hope you subscribe. What's up? I'm just painting and talking about the patriarchy and the male gaze and stuff like that. Diplomatic cigar. Oh, good point here. I think it's disgusting and it's a reflection of the person's heart. From the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Very profound. You just say you want to write a book. You should do that. Very profound, very profound. But yeah, I don't know, like, I think that it's at a place where it's like, I don't even know, you know, these digital spaces. I mean, look at like AI right now and like what OpenAI, what's his name, Sam Altman, has decided that they'll be incorporating adult entertainment into AI. So I guess what this means is people will be able to generate adult content using AI. But the thing about it is like AI uses real human faces and real humans to train their models. So who is this disproportionately going to affect? Women. It's gonna, you know, we've already seen the effect. I remember I was a board member of this organization called the Sexual Violence Prevention Association. And I went to graduate school at Brown with the founder. And so she invited me to be a board member. And so I did that for like a year, but then I was like, oh, this is a lot of work. And I had other things that I needed to attend to. And so, but I remember like we would talk a lot about deep fake, PORN, because I don't know if I can say that word on YouTube. But we would talk a lot about that and just how like AI has been used to like make revenge, PORN, revenge stuff like that of women. And I think that like it's important to have a conversation about these things because the people who usually put themselves out the most on the internet are creative professionals, because it's just a means of getting our art out there, or it's a means of documenting our process. It's a means of potentially like reaching new audiences and things like that. So I don't know, like I feel like it makes me worried a little bit for the trajectory of society. But I do think that a way that women artists can still maintain sovereignty and still like resist some of these patriarchal paradigms is by honoring our unique rhythms and still just honoring what we have to say and like what God has put in our hearts to say, and also just maybe not feeling scared to add a subversive element to our artwork, you know, and not being afraid to add more of a subversive element to our literature, and not being afraid to talk about these things, even if, as what's her name, Avni said, nobody is watching. Like, someone is always watching. And this, like, we're in a panoptic society. Somebody's always watching. And I think the more that women talk about these things, the the more we'll see change. And so segue, I'm a part of this collective where it's called Creators for Change for the National Center of Civil and Human Rights. And I remember when I went on their content day, they had us go and like just make content and stuff for the museum before it's reopening, which if you're ever in Atlanta, y'all should definitely check out this museum. But I was like going through some of the exhibits, and it was just very interesting to see that they put a special section to show the impact of women in the civil rights movement. And I do think that a lot of times the influence of women is, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of like ignored in the civil rights movement. And so I do think that like it showed me that, okay, this is important. Like we as women do have to say things about what we're noticing and the cultural zeitgeist, and we do have an onus placed upon us, no matter how small it may feel. I do think that we have an onus to like talk about what we see and to comment on it. I'm sure when Gloria Steinem, which what phase of feminism was that? I don't even remember. I studied all this stuff in college, but but yeah, Gloria Steinem, I'm sure like when she was writing initially, I'm sure it was going over people's heads. I'm sure she was like, actually I know for a fact that a lot of people were not taking it seriously. And look at how far we've come as a society where women are able to be editors of publications and women are able to be politicians and, you know, do all of these really cool things. Oh no, sorry. I accidentally put in like the wrong shade of paint. Okay, let me see if I can just like mix it in. But yeah, like I feel like as far as we've come, I don't want to see that progress regress just because we as a society have decided to commodify women's expression. You know, I hope that makes sense. I really do hope that makes sense. But yeah, I just felt like that whole experience, especially because this is somebody who like bought my artwork and decided that because they bought a small piece of artwork from me, decided that that gave them a license to essentially sexually harass me online. I don't know. I didn't like that. I did not like it at all. And it also just made me think of the greater context in which this is happening. And yeah, I just feel like it made me say, you know what? Let's do a video on how to survive the male gaze as a woman artist, because I do talk a lot about divine feminine energy and just like decolonizing the divine feminine expression that we do as not only African women, but, you know, indigenous women and just women from post-colonial societies in general, because I do think in a Western context, this conversation is very different. But yeah. So, but yeah, like I just felt like I want to use today to really encourage women artists, like even if you are objectified, keep going. Even if you're not taken seriously or you're reduced to like a sexual object or whatever, ignore it. But don't be afraid to call it out, but ignore it and keep going. Diplomatic Cigar says, very eye-opening. Thanks, Demi. Preach, girl. Don't give that person too much headspace. He was just being a keyboard warrior. Yeah. Well, hold on. Which person? The person who said the... Because I feel like, you know, actually, never mind. I was like, who was being a keyboard warrior? The guy who said the ridiculous comment? Yeah, no, I'm not going to give it like too much of my time. But I did want it to, you know, I feel like as an artist, a lot of what we experience in life, like, I mean, I'm sure you know who Nina Simone is and stuff like that. Like, she talks a lot about this stuff too. May she rest in peace, but in her work. But yeah, like I feel like as women artists, we do still have a responsibility to like talk about like what we go through as women and what a lot of women probably go through. Like I'm sure, oops, I thought I messed up something. I'm sure that there's so many women out there who like they want to do things, but they're scared that they will not be taken seriously because maybe it's a male dominated field or whatever. And I know a lot of artists that I listen to their interviews, like one of my favorite artists, Abra. Y'all should check her out. She's a really dope singer. She makes like indie dark wave, but she's really cool. But yeah, like she talked about how nobody, I mean mostly guys, like wanted to help her produce, and so that's what pushed her to learn to produce her own music. And so I feel like when it comes to navigating the male gaze and like navigating the harmful ramifications of the patriarchy on steroids, because I think that's what it is right now. It's like literally the patriarchy on steroids. Like, because there's no way you can convince me that people idolizing Andrew Tate, millions of men idolizing somebody who, I literally had to look this up. I was like, what are the current charges against Andrew Tate? Because there was a guy who reached out to me, and this is like an actor, like pretty successful. Like I looked him up because I was like, oh wow, you actually do stuff. And he was interested in buying my art, but let's go back to what I said earlier. He was interested in me, but wanted to use the art as an in. But I digress. And then I noticed that he was reposting stuff by Andrew Tate. And so I asked him, I was like, are you aware that this man is being charged with like, human trafficking? Like, I was like, are you aware that like this man is being charged with all of this stuff? Because I'm not afraid to like confront. Like, I'm just like, hey, like, are you aware of this? And he was like, oh no, like those were fake. Like they got dismissed years ago. And I was like, no, they didn't, because as of October 2025, they are facing 6 legal investigations, according to a quick Google search. And they are awaiting, he and his brother are awaiting trial on charges of 1, human trafficking, like you said, diplomatic cigar, 2, rape, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, RAPE on YouTube. Andrew Tate specifically is being charged with that. Forming an organized criminal group to sexually exploit women, trafficking of minors and sex with a minor, money laundering, and attempting to influence witnesses. And yet this man has millions of subscribers. Like, how many followers does Andrew Tate have? Like, I'm very curious. And you're probably like, what does this have to do with anything? Let me cook real quick. Andrew Tate has over 10.7 million followers on Twitter. 10.7 million. That's insane. Like, that is insane to me. And I think like how this now trickles into how women who, you know, share themselves on the internet and share their creativity and share their skills and share their thoughts on the internet, we're having to share the same space with figures like this. And we have to share the same space with men who may inadvertently be supporting this guy, even though they may not know like what this guy is doing. Like, I'm not gonna say everybody who follows him is ignorant of what he has going on legally, but it's not like he's gonna post it on his stuff and be like, hey guys, by the way, I'm being charged with sex trafficking and I'm basically Epstein Jr. Like, he's not gonna say that, you know? But I think like how this affects women online is a lot of the same men that follow him are the same men who end up taking all of that influence and pouring that into their interpersonal interactions with women. Like, I hope that makes sense, you know? Because yeah, it's just weird. Like, and I'm saying this like from things that I've noticed, and I'm not saying that all men are horrible, because even though I never like said anything on this live that would insinuate that I even think that, you know, there's some no nuanced Nancys and Nathans who may be like, oh, she hates men. I'm like, no, I love good men. I love the divine masculine, because I do think that in life and in love, we do need that harmony. I mean, look at Mother Earth. We see the harmony. I'm looking out my window. We see the harmony of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And I am a lover girl, which is why I'm so passionate about this, because I'm like, I don't want to see the indoctrination of young men, increasingly so, because these kind of monsters have platforms. So Diplomatic Cigar says, how many of those followers are men? Probably like 75%. Yeah, probably. And it's just like, I wonder, Diplomatic Cigar, do you know people who follow him? This is not a trick question, but it's just like, I just see so many people casually like repost this guy, and when I ask them like, hey, like that's not a really good person, like why are you even sharing stuff from his platform? I feel like the most common response I get is, oh, he's not all bad, like, you know, yeah, he has flaws, but he makes some good points sometimes. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you saying to me right now? Also, am I liking this? Sorry, I had to pause. But yeah, it's just very interesting. Okay, but there was something else that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about. Oh yes, the manic pixie girl trope. So that's another thing, and this is like a less intense version of how the male gaze affects women artists, but I still do want to talk about it. It's not as like whoa about as, you know, dealing with men who think it's okay to like view all women as sex workers. And this is not a critique of sex workers. This is a critique of the men who think every single woman is a sex worker. Like, that's weird. But yeah, the manic pixie girl trope is something that is more prevalent in film and literature, but it does pour into like interpersonal romantic relationships. And I'm thinking about this because I remember I dated a guy, and you know, I was the one that ended things with him because I was just like, I don't know if this feels aligned, you know, like this person feels very stable, but I don't think I'm an artist, like I need certain things. And you know, we had to talk about it, and he was like, yeah, you're a rainbow and I'm more of a grayscale. These were his words. And I was like, I really thought about that. I was like, that's very interesting. And I appreciated that he could recognize that, but then I also thought about situations in which because of the patriarchal society we live in, men will view like creative and expressive and like creatively inspirational women as objects there to serve as their like entertainment or inspiration or aid in their personal development without really being able to reciprocate that. And so I'm going to tell you guys like the actual definition of the manic pixie girl, but hold on. Diplomatic Cigar says, I don't do social media, so I can't really say, but not that I'm aware of. I think it's all the big lazy people sitting around doing nothing in life that's following him. You're right. I think so. Actually, but you'd be shocked. You'd be surprised. But I also think it has to do with like the city you live in too. Because I know you live in South Africa. I think he's like really big in the US, but I think that's a reflection of the leadership that unfortunately we have in the US right now, and like what is positioned as acceptable by men in leadership positions is very interesting. Like I think also why I like looking at these things is because I've always been interested in cultural anthropology and gender economics. Like I remember during my undergrad years at Brown, I took this one class on gender economics, and our teacher was so cool. She was the senior economist at the World Bank. And I remember we had a session where we were just talking about countries that have these high rates of femicide and feminized violence. And like we were just looking at, well, one, the external factors that contribute to it, but then also the effects of it, but then also like how we're policymakers looking at ways to curb the onslaught of, this phenomenon. Like, yeah. So basically, what we were reading pointed to this notion that policies don't really make a difference as much as restructuring culture and like the cultural attitudes towards certain things. So it's like, instead of like instead of saying, oh yeah, we're going to enact all these policies that make it illegal to do XYZ, not saying that those are bad, obviously. Like, we need laws that protect women from violence, but they found that a lot of the things or the efforts that made more of a splash were initiatives that focused on restructuring those cultural attitudes. So like looking at from like the elementary school, primary school level, incorporating that into the curriculum, like how to respect women and like just like things like that. And they found that that made more of a difference. And so why I think that it's important to kind of pay attention to that right now, especially like for women artists and then male artists as well. Like, I think it's because if we look at it, the social attitudes and the cultural attitudes that we're seeing, be the most prevalent in society right now are a lot of times informed. Ooh, this is looking cute, sorry. Had to pause. I was like, wait, I'm seeing the vision. It's starting to come together. I'm about to show you guys. I just want the paint to dry a little bit more. But a lot of those cultural attitudes are informed right now by what we see on social media. I don't spend that much time on social media. I mean, I come on here every now, like 3 times a week now, and just chat a bit while I paint in my studio, but the majority of my time is spent doing real life stuff as an artist, but I do think that, like, as somebody who I do mentor young women in my community, and I do talk to them about stuff that they're going through in college and things like that, and I do have young nieces who are preteen, teenage, I'm invested in what is happening, because I'm like, yo, like, I want to make sure that what y'all are being exposed to, and like what y'all are being exposed to not only on the internet but through your friends, I want to make sure inside your head what is right and what is wrong, and that you don't have to subject yourselves to, like, you don't have to commodify or objectify yourself to gain anybody's approval, But yeah, I just got really passionate about it. I mean, I have to. Like, if you Google me and my knowledge panel comes up on Google and it says Odemi Pasu, writer, literally you scroll down, it says woman rights advocate. And that is what I am. I am a women's rights advocate. And I think if I'm going to have any type of platform, I don't care who's watching, how many people are watching, I do want to talk about stuff like this, because I think, like, my art, yeah, it's pretty and vibrant and stuff, but the subliminal message there is still about divine feminine power and, like, honoring that. Diplomatic Cigar says, the only man truly worthy of following is Jesus himself, to be honest. Hallelujah. I agree. I definitely agree. That's why I don't really believe in the whole concept of, like, influencers. It just seems so panoptic, very Big Brother 1984 to me, to have somebody who is titled like, how dystopian does that sound? Influencer. Like, what? Like, no. I am sovereign. I am not easily influenced, and I think, like, I blame the lack of critical thinking that is prevalent in the world today. But yeah, no. It's weird, but I do agree, like, Jesus, we need more of that in society, for real. You said, this is my social media, fixing bugs on Odemi's live and tuning in on the most random times. For sure. Although, in my defense, we haven't had too many hiccups lately. Like, you fixed a lot of them earlier. But yeah, it's been mad chill lately. But let's see. How long am I going to be on here today? It's been like an hour. I think I want to paint a little bit more. But, I do also, I forgot something. Oh yeah, I was going to read you guys the definition of manic pixie girl and, like, what that is. And like how that trickles into, what's it called? Like some of the interpersonal interactions. But I'm gonna show you guys what it's looking like so far. Okay, so this is what it's looking like so far. Still, it's still underway, but also it kind of looks like my painting behind me. And then also this is the back right now. So yeah, this is gonna take me a minute is what it's seeming like. So when y'all see the price when I'm selling it, y'all seen how much energy and time went into this. But yeah, like I'm just really excited though, like just quick segue, like I'm excited about this wearable art collection because I think it'll be cool to have just art, you know, made, well, obviously made wearable, but art that people on their day-to-day can interact with instead of having to feel like, oh, they can only see art in a gallery or only see art in a museum. Like I think art should be a more prominent part of life personally. And so that's why I'm excited. But this is part of a larger collection I'm working on. I was like literally writing about it today. I'm such a writer. I still have, I don't know, y'all still keep notebooks because I think like as an author, I definitely have to, because when I wrote my first book, literally it was me looking through old notebooks that helped a lot. And I think Matthew McConaughey, when he was talking about his autobiography, he shared that he locked himself in like a cottage or something and just went through all his old journals. So I think this is going to be helpful for the next book that I write. But yeah, like I just was writing a lot about like where I am right now, but this is definitely part of a larger collection that I want to be for sure subversive in reaction to what I'm seeing in society, a lot of what I've just talked about in today's live, but also like where we're going. And you know, the art, the humanities, that is what people will look at to understand the sentiments and the cultural behavior, and then just also like the emotions that were present in this time in history. I mean, there's so much happening. Like Warren Buffett, so random. Warren Buffett just is retiring. Like that's crazy. Like we're going through so many endings. Like there's a lot of endings and like a lot of new things. Like a new world is popping up. New paradigms are forming and expanding. And I think that as artists, especially as women artists, we have the power to kind of steer the wheel a little bit. Eric Markison, hello, welcome back. Beautiful fingers and impressive intellect. Yes, my fan with the finger fetish. I hope you like the video. But yes, thank you. Impressive intellect, I agree. Like, we need some more of that online. I'm telling y'all, consciousness raising meetings, bring them back. Who was that? Was that like Gloria Steinem's era of feminism? I don't even know. And I'm not even saying like I identify per se as a feminist. I think a lot of Western feminism left out African women and indigenous women. So I'm wary to label myself as certain things. However, I do think that a lot of those sentiments, like, I mean, nuance, hello. A lot of those sentiments definitely, we need them and we need that discourse more now than ever because it's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand, like the commodification of women's bodies by women and by men. But I think when it's done by a woman, it's because a lot of times they think that's what men want. And I'm like, I don't know if you should live your life necessarily based off of one demographic's opinions. That's just my thoughts. I don't know, like I feel like sovereign, also I'm thinking what do I want to mix this color with? I do think that like sovereign expression as a woman is important for its own sake. And that's why I encourage people to really look at the historical female deities that existed in pre-colonial times. Like my favorite deity to look at and that I think has the best stories is Oshun, because she was viewed as one of the most powerful gods in Yoruba mythology and spiritual mythology. And she was sexy. Like, she was like able to disarm with her beauty and her charm and all of that, but do not piss her off because she could go head to head with any of the male gods. And I'm like, yeah, I like stories like that. And I think also this is why I gravitate towards like Charlie's Angels, Angelina Jolie, strong female protagonist type of movies, because yeah, pretty much. We need more of that representation just to remind women that, hey, like, you do have power. What a very odd question. Eric Markison said, what is your favorite hand moisturizer? What? I'm just gonna answer anyways though, because I don't want to see y'all ashy out here. Cocoa butter, how about that? Everybody buy some Palmer's cocoa butter and thank me later. But yeah, so anyways, Manic Pixie Girl. What is that? Because I was explaining this to my sister and she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you don't know what the Manic Pixie Girl trope is? Like, this is what it is. Because I was trying to explain to her how I feel like sometimes I find myself like, how do I want to put this? I kind of feel like that trope is being pushed on me sometimes in certain like romantic instances. But anyways, like the Manic Pixie Girl is a stock character in fiction, typically an eccentric, free-spirited woman who exists solely to help a brooding male protagonist embrace life's adventures. This term was coined by film critic Nathan Rabin, I hope I'm saying his last name right, in 2005. This trope features quirky traits and often is portrayed as lacking her own defined personal goals or a rich inner life beyond serving the male character's emotional growth. The character is often portrayed as an agent of change for the male lead, and the trope has been criticized for its one-dimensional and often sexist portrayals of women. So, how does this affect women artists? Well, one, women artists are not, I'm not gonna say we're not that common, but like, think about it. When's the last time you met a professional woman artist just on the street? Like, you know? And this is not to say that there's not a lot of women out there who have artistic talents, but I mean like in terms of, oh, this is like a full-time job or something that they do, like, you know, full-time. Or like they dedicate more of their life to it. So I think that in itself can be seen as a bit quirky sometimes. And it also comes with this implied sense of being, you know, carefree, free-spirited, even though it is a very real job. Like, there are very real, like, I'm still doing the sales and the market segmentation and using AI to do the whole marketing, email marketing flows. I'm coding, my website, like, I'm doing real stuff. But I do think that society, because, you know, it's a patriarchal society, women artists are definitely still seen as these, like, oh, not a care in the world, just doing, you know, floating through life, which, I mean, to an extent, yeah, I do float through life, but on purpose. I try to make life feel fun in that way for me. That way I can stay inspired, but there are very real ways that I do honor that divine masculine energy in my life. Like, essentially, I gotta hustle too. I still have to put in work, and all women artists have to do that. Beyonce has to put in work, okay? Like, she's not just this beautiful, ethereal being. Like, have you seen her documentary? She is working. And she's able to inspire with her beauty and her elegance and like her artistry, but there is very real work that goes into it. And so I think like with the Manic Pixie Girl trope, like why I kind of want to bring that up is because I think when it comes down to navigating, also hold on, let me pause. How do I want to do this? Okay. Had to make sure, like, before I put the paintbrush, we're okay with where it's going. Okay. But I think that, yeah, like for women artists who are having to navigate the male gaze and stuff like that, and also like totally just a stream of consciousness right now. Like, this is not a well defined thesis or anything, but hit me up on LinkedIn. Maybe I'll write like an actual article about it or something. But this is just YouTube, okay? People's attention spans are not even that popping on here, for being real. But I will just say this much, that I think that, you know, a lot of women artists are cast into that position, especially if they date more like traditional guys, like, you know, the corporate types who are like attracted to your free-spirited energy. I'm speaking from experience too. Who are attracted to like your free-spirited energy and stuff, but don't really recognize it as valuable outside of bringing inspiration, unrequited inspiration into their lives. Like, they don't really think to themselves, how can I be more colorful or whatever? But like, because they lack that color in their lives, they just kind of like, to an extent, siphon it from the woman artists that they choose to date or do other stuff with. And I think that this is just interesting because I've been seeing, you know, certain conversations on the internet about certain women artists and their relationships and stuff. And like, to me, from an anthropologist perspective, I'm like, this is very interesting. I think this is like emblematic of a deeper trope, or like a deeper cultural thing, like pattern that I'm noticing. Like, woman artists exists as woman artists, creates really cool work. Guy who is not able to do that in his own life gets with woman artists and, you know, uses woman artists, her energy to feed into his boring life. It's very interesting. So I do think that, you know, women artists and women creative professionals, it's not bad to be like a muse or something for somebody, but just make sure that like you're always protecting your energy and protecting that divine feminine energy that you've been blessed with, and don't let people exploit it. And don't let I mean, men or women, honestly, anybody can exploit anybody, but you know, we're talking more so about the patriarchy right now. Yeah, just be mindful, and you know, I'm not saying like move through life with your guard up, but as an artist, you do attract a lot of energy. I was literally talking about this with a guy artist. He's a musician, and we were just like having this conversation about the interesting characters that one can sometimes attract as an artist inadvertently, just because they might be attracted to your light, or the way that you move through the world. Like, perhaps they admire it, but then it's kind of like, oh, you get close enough, then you want to cage it. And it's like, no, you can't do that. What did Miley Cyrus say? I can't be tamed. That was her, right? Can't be tamed. Yeah, I think that was like Miley Cyrus 2.0, and we're on Miley Cyrus like version 6 right now, you know? But yeah, I think that's like pretty much what I wanted to say today on that topic of surviving the male gaze. I highly recommend everyone go read some Judith Butler, and you know, I think it would be worth doing to like kind of pay attention to the ways these tropes come up in your day-to-day interactions, or the ways you see them play out around you, because yeah, I don't think that it's fair that women can work super hard to make something of themselves and still be reduced to sexual objects when that doesn't happen to men. Like, we can all acknowledge that George Clooney is a beautiful specimen, but no one is gonna reduce him to like being a sex object. Same with Denzel Washington, same with Morris Chestnut, although Idris Elba, I'm not gonna lie, they be they definitely objectify the heck out of that man. But like still at the same time, it's always followed by, oh, but he's accomplished this, he's accomplished that, he's accomplished, all this stuff. And so I think that for women creators, actresses, producers, visual artists, writers, all of it, it's important for us to like remember that we don't have to reduce ourselves to the limited perception that is placed upon us by the male gaze. That's all. And I think that it's going to be very important moving forward, because like our contributions to society are very important. And I think that they're going to be necessary to inspire the next generation of women artists who come after us. Because I know for me, when I think of women like Eartha Kitt, who definitely had a no-nonsense approach and a very free-spirited approach to expressing herself through her sensuality, her sexuality, but it was always like defiant, it was subversive, and it was based off of her own pleasure and her own choices on how she wanted to express herself. She didn't bow down to these patriarchal notions that told her to like shrink or anything like that. Someone like Nina Simone is also another example. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, in present times, I think Angelina Jolie is a really great example of that. Like, she doesn't let the fact that people, do sexually objectify her, she doesn't let that stop her from being a humanitarian or directing cool movies or starring in really powerful roles that are going to influence women or inspire and influence women for decades and possibly centuries to come. I could go on and on about this, but let me see. Do I want to read this that I wrote? Okay, yeah. I think like I was really happy about this, but I was just kind of like writing because I have this Nike shirt that says, "Don't just be a lady, be a legend." And I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, I like that message was on a shirt, and it made me think about how my art, putting it on clothing, is also saying that type of message. Like, you don't have to just put that shit on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can also make a statement. You can also honor your divine feminine power as you curate your wardrobe and things like that. And it can also make a deeper statement. But this is just like me reflecting and on why I feel like creating artistic fashion and wearable art right now. Also, I've been like talking for a hot sec. But basically I said, painting clothing feels liberating in a time where conformity is commonplace and originality is positioned by out-of-touch fashion brands as either an out-of-reach luxury for a select bourgeoisie or a nuisance to societal order. And I said I find freedom in making a coat or jeans or anything my canvas. And I feel that I am creating this colorful armor for the dreamers, lovers, romantics, visionaries, and creative revolutionaries who must boldly face this world and navigate what it means to be a rainbow living in a grayscale society. And I go on to say, furthermore, the nature of my work is hyper feminine. I mean, hello, I love pink. And it is infused with these African motifs from a decolonized diasporan perspective. Anything hyper feminine and sovereign is a perceived threat in a patriarchal world order that wishes for women to express ourselves only for the pleasure of men or their approval. As such, my aesthetic subversion, quite frankly, ignores the male gaze. How much of modern women's apparel is created for women to just feel good, spiritually uplifted, and sovereign? Not enough, if you ask me. So yes, I do gravitate towards classic, elegant, feminine silhouettes, but I infuse them with abstract art as a point of rebellion for a cause. So I think like for me, it's just helpful to like write out my why and write out my thoughts, so I'm not just doing stuff just to do it. Like I like everything I do to have a deeper meaning. And I think that for women artists, like when it comes to surviving the male gaze and the attempted limitations of the patriarchal world order that tells women to be second-class citizens and shh, don't talk, don't be loud, don't do anything, like, you know. I think that it is important for us to define our whys for ourselves and just, you know, continue to create from that place of personal freedom. And I'm going to also put into the chat before I forget where you can shop my art, my fashion, and my book as well. Okay, let's see. And then I'm going to close out with a poem from my book, inspired by Steve Biko, because now that's a man. We need more Steve Bikos in modern society, if you ask me. But okay, so let me put in my link before I wrap up today's live. But yeah, this was very cathartic for me. I'm not gonna lie. I think I just had so many thoughts, like I wanted to just get them out, and it's easier for me to do it on live and just like post the replay, because sitting down, like I feel like if I were to sit down and record a video like this and then have to edit it, I would just get exhausted. But this was fun. It was fun to paint and just like get some of these thoughts out, and I hope that whoever sees this video later, I don't know, that's the thing about YouTube, like the videos last for a long time. Like I still get recommended videos from like 13 years ago, like literally. So I never know who this video might help in the future, but I pray that it does reach the women who do need to hear it. But okay, before I wrap up for today, wait, hold on, let me pin this. Okay, I shall read from my book, A Force of Nature, featuring my artwork on the cover, which honestly, this is what really started it all. But I'm gonna read a poem called I Write What I Like. And it is inspired by, like I said, Steve Biko. But I feel like it's just a good culmination of all of the thematic elements of today's live. It was a very impassioned, proclamation of my divine feminine sovereignty, and a case for women artists to exist, thrive, and create irrespective of what society tells women that they should be. Because it's gonna matter. It matters now, but I think like because I don't know, the world wants to be on some Handmaid's Tale type of stuff. Like, I mean, hello, Roe versus Wade was repealed. Like it's a lot. It's kind of crazy right now. And so I do think it is important for us to use our voices and our creativity in a more potent and intentional way, while still honoring our sovereignty and, you know, our play and our freedom and our pleasure. So this poem is in my Win chapter, and it begins on page 157, and it is called I Write What I Like. So I wrote, I believe that African women must find our own revolution, and that we must prepare to bear arms for our virtue and our right to the treasures of this earth. And I am infatuated with this imagining of the African woman, free, uninhibited, and daring to be more than a mother, sister, lover, or a pillar standing still and patiently waiting to receive. When in fact we created love in all her glory, and our breasts bear Aphrodite's kiss, and our minds move mountains as our thoughts roar loud. And the thunder shakes to the rhythmic step of our feet. So yes, we are the siren's delight, singing a song that can break you and enchant you all the same. The African woman is ethereal, uniquely bound to a celestial host. The sun, the moons, the stars, our beings are connected with the land and the sea, and the middle ground where the two kiss and finally meet. So I take this to mean, and no, I do not say it respectfully, we must sink the ships of pirates in all their unique forms and castrate audacious men who try to claim our shores. We must rumble the foundations of those coliseums in the middle of which we stand. We are no longer servants. This is our holy land. I pen this note to my valiant sisters, those awake and those who sleep. This is a call to action. Please read this carefully. Where oceans rise, our feet will not fall. Where the earth crumbles, we will stand tall. Where cries break glass and fires rage on, we will conquer calamities and the crack of lightning's whip. May I remind you the lineage from which we come. We are the span of evolving moons, the infinite range of stars. And lest you forget our power, we are the fortitude that burns incessantly with the raging sun. And so just like that, the selfie light has bounced just right on time for me to bid y'all farewell. But yeah, I feel like today was a really great conversation. Eric Markison says, I am enjoying your reading and listening to your voice. Thank you. I appreciate that. Eric, I encourage you to check out my website and buy my book, Force of Nature by Odemi Pesu. I wrote this book, and no, AI was not involved. I published this in 2021, and I talk a lot about decolonization of mind, body, and spirit, and divine feminine energy, and African womanhood in this book. So yeah, I think that, hey, it has great reviews on Amazon. I have shared this book globally. It's in a lot of different bookstores, and I'm just really proud of where this book has gone and where it is still going. And so for me, coming on here on live, like, it's fun. Honestly, it's fun. Like, I got to, I don't know, I feel like this feels like public training. Like, I don't know where God is going to take me. Probably a stage or 2 or 3 or 5 or 100. I don't know. But I do know that I have things to say, and I'm going to keep saying them. And there are women who need to hear them, and men who also need to hear them. But yeah, I'm excited to see where things go. And I'm blessed and happy to be an artist. So here's what the jacket is looking like. Literally, okay, I've been seeing on Pinterest a lot of like really cool stuff, but I've been seeing some of these advertisements for these wearable art fashion lines, like luxury fashion lines, where they have the dress, and it's like, or the dress or the blazer or whatever, and it's covered with the art, but then they print out the art behind them, and it looks like the model is stepping out of a painting. So I think I'm gonna do something like that, like once I finish this, because it has the same color palette as this painting. Oh, it's gonna be so cool. Like, I just think there's gonna be some really cool editorial shoots that come out of this line, which, hello, love it, love it, love it. All right, y'all, but I'll chat with y'all tomorrow. We'll be back in the studio. Who knows what I'll talk about tomorrow, but I think today's topic was very necessary, and yeah, I hope it resonated deeply. All right, I love you guys. Bye.